The awakening of an ancient species. The Galactic Federation prided itself on its control over history. For millions of years, its vast coalition of species maintained order through knowledge, diplomacy, and strict oversight of emerging civilizations. Wars had not existed in eons. Conflict was a relic of the past. So when an archaeological team uncovered a sealed chamber on an abandoned world in the Caltrus expanse, they had no reason to fear what lay inside. It was a tomb, or so they thought, a relic of a lost species from time before the Federation had brought peace to the stars. Dr. Alvin Tor, lead xenoarchaeologist of the expedition, gazed in fascination at the frozen bodies encased in transparent stasis pods. The beings inside were tall, bipedal, and strangely symmetrical, their muscular forms suspended in an eerie semblance of sleep. Their records identified them as Homo sapiens, humans, an extinct species from a quarantined world called Earth. Alvin Tor had never heard of them. Few had. The records labeled them as a peaceful, primitive race that had perished in an ecological disaster millennia ago. A tragedy, certainly, but nothing remarkable. Yet, as his tendrils hovered over the stasis controls, something about these creatures unsettled him. It was their faces, their expressions frozen in time. Unlike most preserved specimens, these did not look passive in their long sleep. They looked ready. Ignoring his unease, he activated the reanimation sequence. The first human to awaken was Captain Elias Carter. His mind resurfaced from the abyss like a drowning man gasping for air. His body, once locked in cryostasis, surged with sensation, cold, pain, adrenaline. He opened his eyes, inhaling sharply. The sterile glow of alien lights met his gaze. Not home, not Earth. Carter's instincts flared, but he forced himself to stay still, assessing his surroundings. He was in a medical facility, surrounded by creatures he didn't recognize, tall, thin beings with chitinous skin and black, lidless eyes. Scientists, observing, studying. A familiar feeling crept up his spine. He was being watched, analyzed like an animal behind glass. He sat up abruptly. The creatures recoiled in surprise. Good. They hadn't expected that. Where the hell am I? Carter's voice was hoarse but strong. Alvin Tor hesitated before responding. You are among friends, he said in heavily accented English. We have revived you from your long slumber. You are safe. Carter's eyes narrowed. Safe. A lie, or at least not the whole truth. He scanned the room. 3 of them, no visible weapons, the exits guarded by mechanical drones. A cold realization hit him. These weren't rescuers. They were keepers. He had been brought back for a reason. And Carter knew, with the certainty of a soldier who had seen too much war, that waking up was a mistake. Not for him, for them. The problem with humans. Captain Elias Carter had always been a fast learner. It had kept him alive in war zones on alien battlefields, and now, in a pristine research facility where he and his kind were little more than lab specimens. The Galactic Federation had made a grave mistake. They thought humanity was extinct, that they could awaken a handful of humans, study them like relics, and introduce them into their stagnant utopia. They believed humans were passive, like the other species they had uplifted over the millennia. But in just a few days, the Federation scientists learned a brutal truth. Humans do not sit quietly. The humans have been placed in a controlled environment, a simulated Earth-like habitat with carefully limited technology. There were now over 20 of them, resurrected from cryogenic slumber. Among them were scientists, engineers, and soldiers, carefully selected by the long-dead humans who had built this last-ditch survival project. Their captors called it an observation program. Carter called it a prison. The first warning sign came when Dr. Alvin Tor tried to introduce humanity to the Federation's concept of peace. Our civilization has existed without war for nearly 1 million years, he explained to Carter, Vasquez, and a few others. His species, the Xylothians, have been one of the founding members of the Federation. We have eliminated conflict through diplomacy, cooperation, and the strict regulation of ambition. Colonel Isabella Vasquez, a former Marine officer, leaned forward, her dark eyes sharp. Regulation of ambition? Alvin Tor flicked his mandibles, an approximation of a nod. We guide civilizations towards sustainable, conflict-free existences. Aggression is an evolutionary flaw we help species overcome. Yours was an anomaly. You destroyed yourselves before we could intervene. Carter frowned. Destroyed ourselves? Alvin Tor hesitated. Your world was placed under quarantine after its fall. The records suggest you were on the brink of annihilation when your last survivors entered stasis. We assumed you perished. A silence fell. Carter looked at Vasquez. She didn't need to say a word. They were being lied to. But now wasn't the time to push. Instead, they smiled, nodded, played along. And in the background, the real work began. By the 5th day, the humans had hacked into the facility's limited network. By the 7th day, they had mapped the security drone patrol routes. By the 10th day, they had identified the true weakness of the Galactic Federation. It had no military. The Federation had become complacent, lulled into a false sense of eternal peace. Its security forces were police, not soldiers. Its ships were unarmed, designed for diplomacy and exploration. Humans, however, had been forged in war. And now, with every passing moment, they were preparing for the inevitable. The Federation had resurrected a species it could not control. And soon, they would regret it. The Great Escape and the first war in a million years. The Galactic Federation believed in order. They believed in control. They believed, above all else, that civilization had outgrown conflict. They were wrong. Captain Elias Carter stood in the heart of the research facility, staring at the screen his people had hijacked from the Federation systems. Streams of alien text scrolled past, decrypted in real time by human ingenuity. The truth was worse than he had imagined. Humanity hadn't perished in a self-inflicted cataclysm. They had been sealed away. The Federation had feared them. After observing human history, its wars, its boundless ambition, they had deemed humanity too dangerous to be allowed into the galactic fold. Instead of making contact, they had wiped Earth's records from their archives, condemning its survivors to a silent, frozen death. But now, humanity was awake, and they were angry. The escape plan. We make our move tonight, Vasquez whispered, crouched beside Carter in the dimly lit maintenance corridor. Around them, the others, soldiers, engineers, and even the scientists listened intently. We've rerouted the security drones to patrol an empty sector. That gives us exactly 9 minutes to breach the docking bay. Lieutenant Novak, a former cyber warfare specialist, tapped his wrist console. I've accessed the facility's ship logs. They have a transport cruiser, unarmed but functional. If we reach it, we can disappear before they realize what's happening. Carter exhaled. It wasn't a perfect plan, but they didn't need perfect. They needed bold. All right, he said. We move fast, we move quiet, and if anyone gets in our way, we put them down, Vasquez finished. No one argued. The breakout. The moment they disabled the internal security grid, the facility erupted into chaos. Doors hissed open, alarms blared, and panicked alien scientists scrambled as their supposedly passive test subjects became a full-blown insurrection. A Xylothian guard, a glorified bureaucrat with a stun baton, tried to block Carter's path. He didn't even hesitate. One punch sent the alien crumpling to the floor. Novak's hacked security drones turned against their former masters, clearing corridors with precision. By the time Federation reinforcements responded, the humans were already in the docking bay. The transport cruiser's ramp lowered, and Vasquez led the charge aboard. Go, go, go. As they ascended, Federation officials flooded the intercoms. Humans, stand down. There is no need for violence. Carter answered by sealing the hatch and engaging the engines. The transport roared to life, lifting off just as automated security turrets activated. Energy blasts lanced through the air, too slow. Carter grabbed the controls. Hold on. The ship shot forward, tearing through the docking clamps and blasting into the open void. They were free. For the first time in thousands of years, humans had returned to the stars, and the Federation had just declared the first war in a million years. The Reckoning. The Galactic Federation had survived for 1,000,000 years without war. It would not survive humanity. Captain Elias Carter stood at the helm of the stolen transport cruiser, staring at the Federation fleet gathered in orbit above Caltris 4. Hundreds of sleek, silver ships hovered in formation, their designs elegant and precise. Vessels built for diplomacy, not war. Carter's crew had studied them during the escape. The Federation's ships carried no weapons, no standing military, no concept of strategy beyond negotiation. They had been built for a galaxy that had forgotten fear. The humans would remind them. The first shot in 1,000,000 years. "They're hailing us," Novak said, his fingers gliding across the control panel. "Priority transmission." "They sound desperate." Carter smirked. "Let them sweat." The voice of High Chancellor Verilis, leader of the Galactic Federation, crackled through the speakers. "Humans, this is an unacceptable violation of Federation law. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." Carter leaned forward. "You locked my people in a tomb. You should have let us sleep." A pause. Then, another voice, Dr. Alvin Tor. "Please," the scientist pleaded. "You don't understand what you're doing. The Federation has transcended war. There is no need for—" Vasquez cut him off. "Then why are you afraid?" Silence. Then the humans fired the first shot. Novak had rigged the transport's thrusters into an improvised kinetic weapon. The ship banked sharply, dumping a debris field of molten metal into the heart of the Federation's formation. The flagship's shields flared. They were not designed for real combat. The blast sent 3 vessels spiraling out of formation, their unarmored hulls cracking under the unexpected force. Panic swept through the alien fleet. Their pristine order, their false peace, had just shattered. The Federation fractures. Across the galaxy, news of a human escape spread like wildfire. For centuries, entire species had been stifled under the Federation's rule. Ambition was regulated. Advancement was dictated. Rebellion was unheard of until now. The humans had done something unthinkable. They had defied the Federation and won. From the industrial colonies of the Zalari to the warrior clans of the Uldrak, suppressed civilizations began to rise. Old grudges reignited. The myth of the Federation's invincibility crumbled. War, long thought to be extinct, had returned, and the humans were at the heart of it. The final stand. Chancellor Verilis made one last, desperate plea. "Stop this madness. If you continue, you will plunge the galaxy into chaos." Carter's voice was calm, cold. "You already did that when you woke us up." With that, the humans activated their stolen ship's jump drive, vanishing into the void. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were taking the galaxy back.